Hi everyone. So today I just feel like making some homemade rolls. And to start with that, I'm going to go ahead and mix up these dry ingredients and show you how it's done. What's really nice about this is you can go ahead and pre-mix the dry ingredients first, and you can store them in your pantry for another time. And then I'll just show you how to use that. Anyway, so we're going to start with adding 3½ cups of all-purpose flour, 2 1/4 teaspoons of saf yeast. Now saf yeast is instant. It looks like this in the packaging, and you can get it either at cash and carry if you have one nearby, or you can just get it online from Amazon. It is more expensive through Amazon, but it's still worth the price. Anyways, the reason I like this kind of yeast is because you don't have to soak it first. How other yeasts are, you usually have to activate it by adding warm water and letting it sit for a while and bloom. You don't have to do that with this. This is why I like this. And so you just throw it in with your dry ingredients first, and then I'll show you the next step. So after we add the flour and the saf yeast, we're going to add 1/4 cup of dried milk powder, 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Okay, we're just gonna whisk this together real quick. And we're gonna set this aside until we get our wet ingredients together. And like I said, at this point, you can put this in an airtight container and store it in your pantry for later use. Okay, so I'll set this aside. And the next thing we have to do is prepare the wet ingredients, which we're going to do that by adding 1 1/4 cup of water to a little saucepan. And then we're going to add 1/4 cup of butter. We're going to heat this up until the butter is melted, but we don't want it to come to boiling. We just want to warm up this water and melt the butter at the same time. All right, so now our butter is completely melted and our water is heated, but we don't want to add this to the flour mixture until it kind of cools down to a little bit of a warm temperature, but not hot. I'm going to go ahead and remove it from this burner, and as soon as it's cool, we're going to whisk in 1 egg. So now my water and butter mixture has cooled down, and we're going to add 1 egg to this and whisk it together. And now we're going to add it to our dry ingredients. So it's time to put on the gloves because I'm going to have to dig in there and start kneading the dough a little bit. Now you don't have to knead it for very long. This takes about 5 minutes of kneading time. If you find your dough to be a little bit too sticky, and I think this one is, we will add just a little bit of flour just to kind of make it easier to mix. Okay, so we have our dough where we want it, and we're gonna just cover it with a cloth and let it rise. This takes about 45 minutes, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so our dough has had time to rise. It has doubled, and now it's time to just form it into our roll shapes. All we're gonna do is pull off chunks, kind of round them into balls, and place them on a parchment-lined pan. Show you what I've got going on here. Now these can get really close together. They don't have to be spread out that far. We're just gonna lay them in there. There's like maybe a 1/2 inch in between each one right now. Okay, so I have my rolls on the parchment lined pan, and I'm just gonna cover them again. And we will leave them covered until they double in size, which takes about another 45 minutes. After these rolls have risen in size, we will go ahead and bake them in a 350-degree oven for about 12 to 15 minutes.